Welcome to another Telltale Books video. I'm Greg, and I'm going to be continuing my series on the excellent 1950s author Judith Merril, who mostly wrote short stories, though my last review, number 3 in this series, was for a whole novel she wrote titled Shadow on the Hearth, which was really, really excellent. It blew me away. This time, we're back to a short story, her 4th published work, titled Barrier of Dread. And this is a short story that was published in July of 1950 in Future Science Fiction magazine, the July-August 1950 issue. And I have it, and you can get this brand new from Nesfa Press. Judith Merril, Home Calling and Other Stories, has her complete solo short science fiction and includes Barrier of Dread and stories like That Only a Mother. It's a really, really excellent book, priced extremely reasonable for these days. Awesome James Warhol illustration on the cover. I can't say enough about these Nesfa Press books. I love them. I've been trying to collect them all. And that's where I read Barrier of Dread. And this is one that I got to be careful not to spoil, I think. The basic synopsis is you have a guy, he's the director of human civilization. Okay, mankind is out in the stars and such. And he faces a dilemma concerning the future of mankind. The basic point of the story is that the story of our civilization seems to be all about progress, all about exploring, all about breaking down new frontiers, all about discovering new science and new ideas and new philosophies, all about building new forms of government to make for a better way of life. And one thing we never think about is what happens when we get there. What happens when we've explored it all? What happens when we've discovered it all? What happens? I mean, the universe is big enough that us sitting here right now, we can't conceive of this ever happening. But what if far in the future it does happen and where we've reached the limits and there's nothing more to explore, there's nothing more to discover. Our society has been perfected, our government has been perfected. There are no more frontiers. What do you do? Judith Merril makes a point that at some point we should be able to just sit down and enjoy the fruits of our labor. A very, very thoughtful story. It's really short, doesn't get into much depth, but it doesn't need to, because the whole thing is about presenting this idea that there may come a time when we can rest on our laurels and sit back and relax, kind of retire and just enjoy life. So a very, very intelligent story, which I think is par for Judith Merril. Her stories so far have been brilliant for the most part. I don't think this is a top tale, mainly because of the fact that it doesn't get into details and get into character and world building and story. It just presents the idea. And I think it could have been stronger if it would have given us a little more of those other things. I don't think it would have to go full blown world building and characterization, but just a little bit more than what we got, I think would have made this story a bit stronger. But I still recommend it. If you're looking for a really good 1950s science fiction idea story, this is one you should check out. So have you read Barrier of Dread, or Do you have any other thoughts about Judith Merril? Please leave them in the comments. Like the video, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to us, and come on back for more. My next Judith Merril in order is going to be a famous one titled Survival Ship. Looking forward to that. I hope you are too, and will join me for that and all the other stories and topics that we have here on Telltale Books.